Hi everybody, Andy McPhee here, along with Doug Kenny, the main host of Relentless and Unstoppable. As with each series we do, I let people know how this started. Relentless and Unstoppable started about a year and a half ago after my coaching and mentoring of Doug for 6.5 years. Doug is an incredible human being who was he's dealing with high-functioning autism, and at school he was dealing with obesity and bullying and depression and medication and hospitalization, all those things that tend to come along with when you're dealing with something in life. And Doug, over the last few years, we've had an amazing journey. He's gone from 300 pounds to down to close to under 200 now. He does yoga, running, walking. He's now into bodybuilding, which we've organized and helped him, do it the correct way. His diet is incredible, and it's an inspiration of his story, which is why I created this channel. And since then, I think Doug said to me the other day, and he can confirm this, we've had probably 181,000 views over the last year or so, which is great for a couple of guys who have no idea what they're doing at all, like zero. But we're getting better, and I'm actually learning off Doug now because he is very relentless. He never gives up.
We want to go and tell stories that everyone else is afraid to tell. And that's where the name came from. And the vision.
Do you think, Mark, and that's a really great story, and Doug will have a few questions, I'm sure. And this is not anything against Australian film production companies, but do you think it's a little harder to get certain films made in Australia, whereas here in America, they tend to go, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, let's bring that on?
Absolutely. And, it's been tough here trying to work, because for a number of years when I first got here, I was developing films for other production companies or other bigger producers. And at a certain point, we said, well, hey, why are we doing that? Because we still have to spend all of that time and energy convincing other people to back us. And I'd already been through that in Australia, through the funding body system and through the private investment system. And I do believe that there's just a much bigger market here in America where you can find people, who are in a position to invest in film. In the Australian sentiment is much more conservative, financially speaking. There's a lot less risk that occurs in that society because Americans by their very nature are risk takers. We're all born to be risk takers, for better or worse, But I really appreciate that spirit, and I think that we need a bit of that right now,
Yeah, 100%. And Cameron Hood from Melbourne. He's got this movie Hoodlums. Now, what you're sharing in this story is a lot related to a lot of people are willing to take a risk, right? Now, you've taken a risk. Funny enough, Jason wanted to say maybe we should start a coffee shop, but it was funny. It was the coffee shop where I met him and put on to you. And the part that I'll just add to the meeting of you on the plane, that was simply through Jay, who I'd never met in my life. He just connected up with me on Facebook from Perth when I was in Melbourne, said, hey, Andy, nice to meet you on here. I'm going to LA. Hope we meet. We had no plans to meet on the plane. And as we're on there, you all were on the same flight. So they were things of destiny and, God's plan and, to have people connected up, and you can't stop it. You can't stop it. Absolutely. And it's amazing. And Cameron Hood, the same in Australia. He's writing his whole life story in a film called Hoodlums. And, he's helping a lot of young actors get on there. I was assisting him with coaching some and working with Cam, and everything's going along fine. But the thing is, you're passionately truthful from the spirit of your heart about what you write, and so is Cameron. And that has just got noticed. He's got Columbia Pictures saying to him, we want to distribute your film. He's been taken on by one of the biggest agencies in LA. He's got 5 films within 1 month of people taking notice. And he's done very little acting, very little, but it's the truth in what he shares and what he's doing in his project. And that's what you're doing. It's the truth of what you're doing. It's the truth of what Doug is, why Doug is being recognized on the street, because Doug was an unknown kid dealing with obesity, high functioning autism, depression, suicidal thoughts, mental health, medication, hospitalization. And now people are coming up, hugging him, crying, going, wow, I love your series. So it's just a matter of, forget what people think about you if it's negative, because there's going to be more positives anyway.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I hear, what you just said. All of us are capable of doing something like that.
Yeah.
Now you've got a really cool project that I love this one. I think it's just amazing. Can you share a little bit about that? And then Doug will, actually, no, first of all, Doug, have you got any questions before we go into the next segment?
Yeah, Mark, just wondering, based on kind of my personal experiences before Relentless, before you produced those movies based on true Christian stories, were you ever a nobody at all? Like I kind of was?
I think I still am a nobody, and I actually appreciate that I'm kind of flying under the radar, because I don't know. I mean, it could be a way of viewing the situation through rose-tinted glasses, because I feel like my first film was not the success that I hoped it would be. And if you don't come out of the gate swinging, you know, it's a lot harder to make things happen in the US. But I feel like I'm coming out of obscurity is gonna be a better testimony for me, because I think when and for all three of us, I feel, because when God brings people out of nowhere, as he did with Moses, as he did with Joseph, as he did with David, he's the king of bringing people out of nowhere. You know? So you may feel like you're a nobody in the world, but you're not a nobody to God. And he always has a plan and a purpose for everybody. And I'm excited for what he's going to do with my life and with our lives. He may very well instruct me to give up filmmaking altogether and go live in Cambodia. And,
yeah, right.
And I would have to accept that and go, because ultimately resisting God it's not ever going to bring me anything good or anything fruitful in my life. But trusting and having faith could bring things that I could never ever imagine, not just for my own life but for other people. You know, one of the most rewarding things in the past few years is being able to be used to help others. You know, I didn't know what would become of Jason. I just happened to have a spare bedroom here in my apartment that I just moved into that I couldn't even really afford to pay for, and I was, you know, happy to let him stay there. But from that friendship, a company was born years later. So you just never know, you know. So I think coming out of nowhere is the best place to be, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it happened with Moses and David and the others, and all of them had pulled off wins in their lives that were pretty much upsets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. And like, you know, Doug's, you know, we started Relentless and Unstoppable because it was my creative idea, because I was amazed with Doug after 6 or 5 years of coaching him back then. It's been nearly 6.5 now. I said, Doug, we're doing things behind the scenes. Why don't we get you out on a YouTube channel and share this amazing breakthrough that you've had in your life with loss of weight and everything you're doing, and let's write a book about it. Let's start a series. So I just grabbed the name Relentless and Unstoppable, and next thing we just started interviewing people all around the world. So it's not a Christian group at all, but we all talk about faith because we're all believers. That's the reason we bring it up. Yeah. And you don't have to have a faith to be on this program, but you've also got to have the power to share what you believe in, and not be intimidated by, you know, some people go, you know, they ask you questions about God and why this happened. Don't ask me. I can't tell you. I can't tell you any of that. All I know is that, you know, what's happened in my life and the experiences I had, there's, you know, that's for another program. But I get what you're saying. And Doug's written a fantastic book on Moses, correct, Doug?
Yeah.
Yeah, biblical screenplay. Yeah.
So there's a plan there, and you know, like you just said something very relevant. You may you think, oh, I don't know, you might want me to go live in Cambodia. Well, I'm going through a massive thing at the moment, which there's a lot of words coming up, messages from different people and different things I'm reading, that, you know, there is a shift coming, and I'm not sure quite what it is. It could be ministry, training in the ministry. It could be leading on platforms, acting, maybe like, bye, see ya. I don't know. I don't want it to. I love my acting, but I'm really feeling a shift, and God's put a fantastic, amazing woman in my life, where I thought, after my share of why I'm a coach, of the mess I created in my life and the gangs and all that stuff and the horrible things and emotionally hurting people, I thought, I'll never have another ever. I'm transformed. I'm 5 years on my own. I'm wonderful. Don't need anybody. Bang, next thing, there's a Christian woman in my world. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't even see it coming, and we've known each other for 4 years. So I just trust, like you do and Doug does, that, you know, there's a bigger power than us around.
Absolutely.
And I know your story, which we're not sharing at the moment, but how you've survived here with very little, and you've been looked after, mate. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean,
that's pretty awesome, dude. Pretty awesome.